6:30. So I'd like to call the meeting here for the Cambridge Board of Trustees, our meeting of Tuesday, February 27th, 2024 to order. Roll call, please.
Trustee Breinig.
Here.
Franklin is absent. Whitwer.
Here.
Hollenbeck. Here. Christ.
Here.
Blackwood. Yes. McNally.
Here. We can stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Lisa, has this meeting been properly posted, and if so, how?
Yep. The agenda was posted in the upper and lower levels of the Amundsen Community Center, the Cambridge Post Office, Badger Bank, and the village website.
Okay, thank you. We've got a couple of invited guests. State Representative Barbara Dietrich is not here, as you can see. I called her. There was a scheduling snafu, and I'm not sure, what her plans are, and so she hasn't called me back. So we'll leave that at that. But we do have Jay Weiss, and I invited him in to give us an update on our trees and the health of our canopy here in Cambridge and everything that he has done over the last 15 years, I guess. 5-minute review, because we do appreciate the canopy. So go ahead, Jay.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, I'm Jay Weiss, and again, I'm here because Mark asked me to share the findings of a village forestry inventory I completed recently. And if you're wondering, when I completed the inventory last fall, it marked my 18th consecutive annual inventory in the village. So I've been at this a long time. I will get to my findings, but I first would like to provide some background to you as to why there's so much outside interest in our urban forest and why I and others choose to study our urban forest so closely. So to start, for some perspective, if you back away and look at all of the village parcels, look at right-of-ways where trees are planted along our streets, look at the parks, and look at other municipal parcels such as the Amundsen Center here, where trees are growing, and you tally up all of those trees, it adds up to about 1,400 trees in total, so quite a few. However, my annual inventories don't look at every tree every year. Rather, I focus on just those trees that were sourced by the Cambridge Tree Project. And of course, the Tree Project, if you're not familiar, is a nonprofit I run. And every year I have online spring tree sales, and then I use the proceeds to purchase plant material, which I then donate to our partners. The Village of Cambridge, the school district, there's the Cambridge Foundation for planting at Ripley Park, and I guess it would be Dane County Parks for trees located throughout the Camrock system. And in total, 1,250 trees sourced by the Cambridge Tree Project have been planted on village property. But of course, they don't always live. So of that population, about 1,050 of them are alive, and that is where I focus my annual inventory. My regular inventories don't include about 350 trees that were actually what I call legacy trees. These were trees that were planted prior to the village's partnership with the Tree Project, which goes back to 2006. Now, those trees are quite a bit older, they're larger, and most of them are maples. And this introduces a critically important component of the Tree Project, which historically we have worked really hard to improve the species diversity in our village forest. This was necessary because historically we didn't do well in this area. In 2004, the village commissioned its first ever tree inventory, a comprehensive tree inventory, and we learned that 70% of our 600 trees back in 2004 were of two species, ash and maple. So you can guess it's not optimal to have so many trees be only 2 species. At that time, we had 35 different species of trees in the ground. So moving forward to 2023, we've moved the ash maple component from 66% to 16%, a much healthier ratio. And we did that in part because of the devastating effect that the emerald ash borer had on our village trees, and also because we planted such a wide array of diverse trees. And today, we have 175 species of trees in the ground in Cambridge. That is more than any other municipality in the state of Wisconsin. You can go to Milwaukee, where they have hundreds of thousands of trees. They have only half the species we have right here in Cambridge. So as the result of the tremendous species diversity we have, and the degree to which our trees are monitored, there's a lot of outside interest in understanding how these unusual species perform in urban planting locations. So in the fall, I complete my inventory, I summarize the findings, and I publish it to over 400 people across our region. So it includes tree professionals, arborists, landscape contractors, landscape architects, propagators, nursery owners. It includes government employees. It includes urban foresters, municipal workers, DNR staff. It also includes people in academic settings. So I work with a math PhD at Madison named Tedward Erker. He has a forestry background and a math and statistical background, and he and I and Laura Jull, who's a horticulture professor at Madison, are all working currently at providing a meta-analysis of the database I've created. This is the research-based component of the tree project. It's called the Cambridge Tree Trials. So as part of the tree trials, I collect a lot of different attributes when observed within our tree population. It's up to 65. If it's present on a tree, I make a note of it, and then I input it in my database. And I measure how tall trees are. Every fall, I've taken just under 9,000 total measurements over the past 18 years. So, and the difference is that I openly share this information. I'm not looking to gain financially from it. I share it widely and broadly. So a number of people in the tree industry setting and also in academic settings believe that the tree trials represent possibly the largest active non-proprietary urban forestry database in America. So this is how significant the work we're doing here is. So why is there so much interest in our urban forest? Because we have an exceptional collection of trees. And they're closely monitored and the data is shared. So findings. I'd first like to give you an overall perspective as to how our village forest is doing, and then I would like to open up some, discuss some opportunities we have to mitigate potential threats in the future. So overall, our village forest is in pretty good shape. If you step back and you look at our forest, it can be characterized by a lot of recently planted trees. We've seen 230% growth over the last 20 years. That's a lot. The good news is that this group of trees has been regularly pruned and tended to. So by regular routine prunes, these trees won't grow to be larger and become problems for us downstream. They're much less likely to fail from high wind, from ice storms, from snow loads when they have good architecture. Jay Ames, our current forester, has done a good job of focusing on these routine prunes. And this is what we need to do to carry forward to mitigate any problems in the future, is to continue to do that. Overall, and this is impressive, our trees survive at a rate of 82%. So roughly 1 in 5 trees dies. That might seem high. It's actually not. It's better than the industry average. So I would say that, this suggests that the village in general, both staff and residents, are doing a good job of keeping care of the trees after they've been planted. Anyway, despite the overall good bill of health, We do have opportunities to manage a number of potential threats, and I'd like to cover some of those. First up is something that potentially impacts up to 40% of our 1,400 trees throughout the village. And it's not a new bug, it's not a disease that you haven't heard of. I think it might be an administrative glitch. So we currently have outdated tree ordinance language posted on Municode. And just some quick history, back in the summer of 2021, Eric Whitwer and Carla Gawler and I met to take a closer look at our tree ordinance language. And at that time, we compared our ordinance language to 16 other communities. And we quickly learned that we had by far the most restrictive language. When we applied that ordinance language as a template to our village forestry inventory at that time, we saw that just under 40% of all of our trees were illegal based on that language, largely because of onerous numeric minimum distance requirements that greatly restrict planting locations. The Public Works Committee proposed changing the ordinance language in two ways. First off, to normalize it, so it wouldn't be so out of step with what other communities do. And then secondly, we wanted to focus on stewardship, on growing trees, on keeping them alive, rather than discouraging their planting. We believe we should protect trees from unnecessary removals, construction damage, road projects, whatever. And I think we'd all agree that our tree ordinance language should support our tree canopy. But in Municode today, it doesn't, because it has not been updated. This passed on a unanimous vote in March of 2022, and as of this morning, that language has not been updated in Municode. And I'm not sure why that is, if anyone could give me some background.
It's not a back and forth right now, but there are a number of ordinances from the last couple of years that have not been updated that need to be in Municode.
Okay, so that's good to know.
It's not just this ordinance, there's a number of them that need to be
Okay.
updated.
Excellent. At number two is what is called mechanical damage. So when something brushes against the side of a tree and knocks the bark off, it is called by arborists mechanical damage. This could be a deer, it could be rodents. That rarely happens. It's happened 6 times in the village. More commonly, it's lawnmower decks and string trimmers. And nicking trees repeatedly with a lawnmower deck or a string trimmer will kill the tree eventually. We've lost 32 trees to this over the years, but more concerning is that we have currently 106 trees across the village that have various degrees of mechanical damage. So the cambium layer is how trees photosynthesize. And when it's compromised, a proxy for it would be your heart's ability to pump blood. So if your heart's at 50%, you're going to be tired, and you're probably not going to be able to ward off threats. And this is why it brings trees down, because they simply don't have the energy occurring, photosynthesizing, to maintain their health. Most of these damaged trees are street trees. So, and it's a simple act of awareness. Residents don't know that they shouldn't bang lawnmowers into trees. Many times I've talked with residents when I was village forester, and people wanted to learn about this. They were happy to learn about it. So it's really about awareness. However, 14 trees in our village parks also have various degrees of mechanical damage. And most of this damage occurred, and I understand this, because the summer of 2022, there was a fair amount of turnover in public works. So we had a lot of new people on board. And I think it was simply a matter of not onboarding them, making sure they were aware to keep mowers away from trees. The good news is we can make a difference on this by making sure new employees in public works are aware of this and the damage it causes and the eventual expense it causes busying out our own public works people removing trees, and then, of course, ultimately resting on the taxpayers' shoulders when these trees die. I would also like to encourage the mulching of trees. So one of the learnings from the tree trials is that we can show conclusively, because we have statistical credibility, that trees that are mulched grow 50% faster. They're less likely to die. And it keeps mowers away from the trunks, which is really important. Up next is improper pruning. 54 of our trees currently have incorrect pruning cuts that need to be fixed. Again, these nearly all occurred over the summer of 2022, and they were performed by Public Works. That summer, I witnessed oak trees being pruned over the summer months. That is not a good idea. It is against the ordinance because they can get oak wilt when that happens. The bigger issue, that didn't happen a lot. The bigger issue was that branch cuts were made in the middle of the branch. So if I'm the trunk and this is the branch, you need to cut the tree at the branch collar. And there are a lot of hormones in the trunk of the tree that respond to that injury by compartmentalizing the wound and preventing decay. If you cut the tree branch off out here, the tree does not have the hormones to compartmentalize the wound, and the decay begins going down the branch and ultimately into the trunk of the tree. You've seen trees that fail, that are hollow on the inside. One of the causes of that are incorrect pruning cuts. Also when branches break. So anytime decay gets into a tree, it's dangerous. They become hazards. So we obviously want to assure, anyone bringing a tool to a tree understands how to prune a tree. And I know Jay is on board with this. He understands it. And I'm not worried that it's going to be a problem, but I would like to be sure that the village administratively focuses on the long-term care of our trees by encouraging a culture of learning about trees. Now, I know Jay was interested in going to the WAA conference up in Green Bay. I don't know if there was any discussion around that, but that is exactly the kind of activity that we should be encouraging our public works employees to do. So,
Jay, can you just go through the trees last year's drought? I know you could go on for a while, but we've got a full agenda here. So I'm going to just ask you to go into that one remaining item if you could. How many trees did we lose with the drought?
we lost 15 trees.
Okay.
Which really wasn't bad. And the good news with that is that we used a professional soil mix to plant the trees in, which had good drainage, and it was moisture retentive. And also they were planted correctly, and there was a lot of mulch. The village stepped up and was watering trees last summer, and we had a lot of residents watering trees.
Okay.
So I did want to mention one other thing. About a month ago, I received a call from Tree Health Management. They're the vendor we use that has treated our ash trees over the past 8 years. They called because they wanted to let me know that they received word from the village that we will no longer be treating our ash trees. And I guess the letter was all caps and underlined in exclamation points. And she called and she just wanted to make sure I was aware of that. I said I wasn't, but I'm no longer the forester, but I will let the forester know. And when I told Jay about this, he didn't know about the fact that we were no longer treating our ash trees. So I'm just curious to know how that decision was made. Obviously, Jay wasn't involved. Was it a committee decision? Did it go through the board? And also
That was a board decision during the budget policy because a number of those trees had died, had lost limbs, one on a car. And when they were trimmed, the board made the decision to take that out of the budget.
So the board did vote to no longer treat ash trees.
When was that? This last budget?
During audit and finance, it was taken out of,
That never came up in the finance
yes,
meeting?
it did come
No,
up.
it did not.
Well, I don't know when that decision was made if you looked at the math, because it costs $588 a year to treat the remaining 4 ash trees that we have. So it's $1,780 every 3 years to treat these trees. If we were to remove those trees, 2 of those trees are 70-foot tall specimen ash trees. These are gorgeous trees. They are sound structurally, and they're probably $4,000 a tree to remove. These are among the larger removals the village would ever has seen in quite some time. So the 2 other trees, probably $1,000 to $2,000 each. The break-even point, if we treat the trees every year, is 20 years before we cover the $12,000 that it would cost to remove those trees. And I don't know if residents were contacted, if neighbors were contacted, but these are beautiful existing ash trees. They're going to be incredibly big holes in our village
We talked about
canopy.
it at the Audit and Finance Committee meeting, and we got a recommendation from our Public Works as to what we should do about that particular line item, and that's why we chose to remove it.
And those trees that you're talking about, Tree Works was looking right through them when they were up there trimming them.
Well, one of them, the one on Elm and Park Streets.
Okay.
So maybe the answer is to take another look at the 2 really large trees that are in good structural shape. The other 2, I agree, are not as nice of specimens. But nonetheless, this is going to change our neighborhood in a big way to lose these trees. And to me, the break-even point analysis is very clear in pointing toward treatment as opposed to absorbing the removal expense over the next couple of years, which is basically going to take our entire budget and spend it for removing trees that could be saved.
All righty. Well, Jay, thank you for coming by. And I had asked you because I was just curious with last summer's drought, and pleased to learn that we only lost 15 trees. That still sounds like a lot, but you know, we had the smaller ones. So, and we'll be vigilant and on the whole girdling and cutting too close. And I've got it down here that we do have to kind of follow up on this tree ordinance and see what we can do to get that modified.
Jay, can you speak to how your working relationship is with our new forester, please?
I would call it good.
Okay.
He's enlightened. He understands trees. He has been terrific at being energetic about planting trees this year, which we'll talk about in a little bit. He has the right stuff to be a village forester, and I certainly endorse his place in the village in that role.
And then how does that work where, you know, I understand it's a nonprofit, but maybe some of the audience members don't. But to me, it would make sense, like, okay, if you donate the trees, then you hand them off to the village forester.
Should we skip right on to make a motion to move to?
I'll make a
item
motion to
8B?
move 8B up to our current discussion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Do we need a roll call on that one?
No.
No.
Okay, all right, good. All right, we're going to move right into tree planting.
Right, so you purchase the trees and then you hand them off to our forester? Is that how that works?
Yeah, that is how it works. So I pay for the trees, and then they are gifted to the village.
Okay.
When they arrive, my request is that the village procure them and then be sure they're covered by tarps and the roots are kept damp until they're planted.
Okay.
How many trees have been planted through this system?
1,250 on village property,
All right.
about another 100 on school property.
All right. Have you planted trees yourself, or are these just trees that go out to the residents?
These are trees that would be on village property. I've planted 280 over the last 18 years. The rest of them were planted by the village. So the village for a time was planting 90 trees a year on average, of which I did maybe 10 or 20 of those.
Okay.
So as far as additional plantings, are we just replacing them as they die? Are we fully planted? I mean, you can't put too many trees in a location. I mean, is there a limit? I mean, we're at 80%, 100%?
Okay. Can I just speak up? I have to. I have to stand up for my staff. I take some offense to be sitting here and having our staff raked over the coals, but Jay Ames has shared with me some of the emails. I need direction from the board. Jay Weiss resigned as the village forester. Schedules, timing, pruning, bark treatment plans should not be coming from Jay Weiss to my staff. Village board members should be going to our staff if they have questions about the trees.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree.
No offense, we appreciate all you've done, Jay, but
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, you know, a good analogy is if I have my list here and I hand it off to our public works guy and say, I know I resigned from the public works director position, but here's your task list, and I need you to take care of that for me. Okay? But I resigned. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying.
yeah. And Jay can reach out to you if he has questions, if he has input, if he wants to work hand in hand with you. But to see a timeline and, you know, here's 35 trees that need to be planted at these residents.
That's taxpayer dollars as well.
Okay, well, he and I actually created the timeline together. And the part of this is that as a nonprofit, I can't be in a position like I was 2 years ago when I had $4,500 worth of trees that needed to go in the ground, and Todd was pulled back from supporting the project.
I was
like your
never
project
pulled
needs
back
a
from
staff.
supporting the project.
Jay,
So-
it sounds like your project needs a staff.
Well, no, because I donate the material and then the rest of it is up to the village. But I'm not prescribing anything here other than what I would expect the village to do, and the ordinance states that there needs to be a plan for planting in the spring, which is what he and I came up with. But yeah, if you want the gift of trees, I'd like to be involved in that. And, you know, Jay was fine with it. We talked about it, we picked the dates, and he was involved in that decision. And I actually called him again, I think Friday, and we went through the exact timeline that I shared with Mark. And he said,
Why are you sharing it
yeah.
with Mark? You should be sharing it with our administrator, Lisa. You should not be talking directly to Mark as our mayor, or as our village president, because he doesn't serve that role. You should be talking to our administrator if you have things to share with the board.
Because ultimately, it's going to be her staff that has to do the work.
Sure, yeah, I can do that.
It's not Mark out there digging holes, you know, or
Yeah,
myself.
that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. It was out of convenience more than anything. I knew he was meeting with Lisa Friday, I think, and I passed it his way, so.
Todd, do you have any insight on public works perspective on working with Mr. Weiss?
The insight is that he asked me to do trees for him one year, and we did everything he did, plus we drilled holes out in the vineyards. We spent well over, $5,000 in equipment and man hours and material to do what he did. I was complimented by him going up North Street and trimming all the trees down North Street, but now it's a problem. So I don't understand. My staff is my staff, it's not his staff.
Correct. Correct.
I answer to Lisa,
Correct.
so that's where that has to go. The trees that I'm taking down are being taken down because they are
affected. And I have to stand up for them.
Okay, well, I did note that it was a brand-new staff that the year it happened, and as for the pruning cuts, Todd, it was, what happens is the leaves fall off, and you can see the degree of pruning that occurred, and, yeah, you just want to be sure to bring it to the branch, don't do mid-branch cuts. That was the problem
The
there.
stuff that was up there was already cut that way.
Some of it was, that's true, some of it, but not all of it. So, yeah, I'm not worried about it, I think it's going to be fine going forward. Jay certainly has the capacity, and, you know, Todd's aware of it, so I'm not worried about that. I do bring the gift of trees. They're free, but I do expect that they be planted within a certain amount of time. It was extremely stressful.
Expectations.
Correct. Correct. And
So that's where I have the issue is sometimes it's not as advertised, right? It's not free. There are accountants that are attached to that.
Correct.
So,
right, and that's because, again, Todd was pulled off of his task 2 years ago. Mark ended up calling Digger's Hotline. I did. And I had to organize 25 arborists to come and get the trees in the ground. Now, Todd did do a
You
lot.
organized that before ever coming to the village to say there was that planting day. Yeah, I don't want to go into the past, but
Obviously, I want
our
it to
staff
happen.
has to be trusted to do what they're hired to do. Todd is
We
there,
have very comparable staff right now.
and
Okay, let's get back into the main here, which is a 2024 tree planting.
James has not presented me with, I have what Jay Weiss presented. That is not a village tree plant.
Okay.
It's,
is Jay working on it?
Jay, all of the, you know, and this wasn't in the packet, but I had sent it to you. All of these planting requests, Jay Ames has not talked to all these individuals. They have not requested trees through Jay Ames. If somebody is requesting a tree through Jay Weiss, it should be shared with Jay Ames, or if they want to get a tree and plant it, they have to come to the village for approval.
If it's in the
You know,
terrace.
If it's in the terrace.
pages,
Yeah.
yes, pages of corrective pruning, pages of trunk protection. This did not come from Jay Ames. All of the trees listed here will not be able to be planted. So this is not a plan that was presented by Jay Ames.
So then that's going to be a future agenda item, right?
This board has never approved
We've never approved it.
a tree plant.
Right.
It was talked about when we redid the ordinances because there was,
So why is it on the agenda? Why do,
you asked for it to be on the agenda.
Because we are going to be going ahead, we are going to be getting the trees. I didn't know about Jay Ames. All I had asked,
You,
no, I had asked Jay to come in to give us an update and then to talk about the plantings, if there was anything that he had to offer in terms of recommendations.
that should go to our village forester.
Okay, he is here giving us an update. I thought he could share this with us as well.
Well, there's,
Jay Ames makes the decisions. Jay
That's
Ames is
fine.
our forester.
That's fine. That's fine. I mean, I
Ask Jay Ames about this stuff.
no, I haven't, because I don't go in micromanage your departments, Lisa.
Mark,
Yes,
tone,
yes.
bring it back down, Mark.
But it's disrespectful to myself and to the staff to go outside to discuss the issues without coming to us. To discuss them with Jay Weiss, but not Jay Ames. I have to stand up for my staff.
so again, Jay and I
Sorry.
did meet on this, and he had a list of trees that he wanted to plant, and I said, I have a list too, and he asked me to summarize both of our lists into one, which is what you're referring to. He and I did work together on the plan. I asked him, Friday, just to reaffirm that he said this is possible, he did. So we have worked together, and it's concerning that there's so much obfuscation going on. It should be pretty easy. You're getting free trees. I'm expecting them to be planted by April 26th or 19th. It's pretty much that simple. There aren't a lot of strings here. It's pretty basic.
And expectations are met, sometimes expectations are met, missed, but I'm sure they would get them done as close to April 19th as possible.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it,
Okay.
Paula. I think it'll be fine. I just want to be sure, though, that we don't get into another situation where staff is pulled off this job and I'm sitting with a bunch of trees that we can't plant.
I don't know that the staff was pulled off previously, so can we set that
I think
aside?
that was when we were short 2 staff people, and there's other things in the village that,
Right.
we couldn't necessarily meet your timeline. People weren't pulled off of a project, or to plant trees. Jay Ames, after I talked to him, after you talked to him Friday, his response that he told me was, yes, I'm the village forester. I know when live trees have to be planted. If I don't get them done, if I'm killing trees, I will be fired as the tree forester. He knows his responsibility. He doesn't need it, it's his job.
The other thing in the future, Jay, if someone wants a tree planted in the terrace, if you could refer them to bring that either to Lisa. Actually, probably taking it to Lisa might be the easiest thing, because that Jay can keep doing. Lisa can just gather the information and pass on as he needs it. So I would say if anybody wants trees in the terrace, refer it to Lisa, and then Jay Ames can start maintaining his list. So that when they do gift us trees, which the Cambridge Tree Project gifting the village of Cambridge trees is a wonderful thing that you've done for the village. So when the Tree Project continues to gift trees to the village, Jay Ames has that list of where we might want to put them, and then he can maintain them and do that going forward.
Yeah, and
I think
that's,
that might be we're having to maintain that list.
yeah, that's fine. That makes sense.
My comment, I guess I agree with what Paul was saying, but I guess I would take it a step further. I mean, I've been in the village only a few years, and just, I was marveled at the trees that are here and appreciate all you've done. I think it's just gorgeous, and I think it's a huge asset. In fact, we have a good friend, she's a botanist, and she came down and visited us, her and her husband, and a couple times, and we've walked around the town, and she can name, I'm just shocked. And she's just in awe. She says, never seen a village like this or anywhere with all these types of trees. So I mean, it's a real asset to us. And I guess all I would ask is, that the village recognizes the asset, and let's work together. Let's put Lisa and Jay and whoever else should sit down and work out a process. Here's how this is going to work. These are the dates. By March 1st, we'll agree on how many trees we're going to plant.
And that's what Jay Ames did, to me. He said his ask was, one, will you continue to donate the trees? When do you need the date on when you need the order? How many, what type? When will they be available to pick up for village staff to then plant? Those were the basic questions that Jay, had, so that he could put that together.
Yep, and again, we worked on it together. It was a collaboration, and I did clear it with him for a second time on Friday. I do want to say, though, that I'd like a vote tonight in order to go forward with the plan this year, because I have deadlines with nurseries, and I cannot order the trees and then back them out after March 1st.
We don't need to do a motion. We defer the tree stuff to our public works, and our public works determines how and when and what to do with planting the trees, just like they do with how and when and where to mow the lawns.
And where the trees are planted.
And where, correct.
Yeah.
So I think.
Is this,
but
if you
that
said
doesn't need to
I
be-
mean, because I do need to call by Thursday to let them know
Well,
whether or
and
not
I
the order is
think
in.
the list that was included in the email to Jay Ames, the number of trees listed here, he said aren't the number that are being ordered for the village now, so this
Yeah.
isn't
That was a
accurate.
total inventory, and then he and I worked at a subset of that, which is the plan for this year. That was just the universe of holes that needed to be planted, basically. But this is the plan that you and I came up with. If you want to take a look at it, let me know if that's realistic. And if it is, I will order the trees, but then we need to move forward and just be sure that the plan is stuck to and that we get the trees in the ground.
I'm sure nobody wants dead trees, Jay. I guarantee that.
Yeah.
Nobody wants dead trees. So,
I do have one request. I know when the board gave approval to measure the trees, one of the items was that all results would be shared with myself.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Not received them. You know, our guys
Yep.
want those to put in our system because they are village trees.
Yeah, I apologize, I should have done that.
Yeah,
So
for the last 2 years,
The
I have
2023
not.
summary has not been completed yet because of this deeper analysis that I'm working on with the people at the university. So I expect to publish that in June, but I'd be happy to publish, share with you the 2022 data. And I will get that to you tomorrow.
Okay, all right.
all right.
Jay, thank you very much for coming by and giving us an update.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, yeah, just let me know.
Yeah, just-
All righty. Before I move on, any other members of the public here that would like to speak at this time? Okay. Close that section of the agenda. Let's move on. Approval of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay.
I'll second.
Any concerns, comments?
There are a few typos, but I don't know if you want me to,
you can send them to me.
I'll just send them to you. Okay, yep. That's the only biggest thing I saw.
All right. Nothing else? All those in favor of approval of the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries. Reports, President's report. I have one item, but it's not ready for, I'm just not ready to go. So I'm going to hold off.
So you don't really have one item then?
I'm working on it, but it's.
Okay.
Half an item.
No, there's
right.
action, but not ready.
All right.
I will let you know at the,
Excellent.
hopefully next meeting. Okay, library board.
We met, let's see, we talked about, right now what we're doing, one of the things the library board is concentrating on is setting policies. There is a whole bunch of policies we're supposed to have that the library hasn't had, or it hasn't been reviewed for 15 or 20 years. So we're going through that process. We did create a new appropriate library use policy. So that's one of the things that we're working on. We're also working on a naming rights policy item, so we're working on that. We also reviewed the trustee bylaws. We've got, all of these things are going to come back to the next for final approvals. We talked about a little bit about our 2024 budget and some of the items that we're going to be doing there. And then we looked at our strategic plan again. And that's about it.
Okay.
Just keeping things moving along. Library hours will be changing starting March 1st. The library will be open from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., I believe Monday through Thursday. And then Friday, I believe it's still 10 to 5, and then Saturday is still 9 to noon. What we wanted to do is extend into more evening hours so that more of our community could take advantage of that.
Okay.
I also want to emphasize that a lot of the library funding from Dane County and Jefferson County is based on circulation numbers. So if you want to help the library, but you can't like make a donation to the library yourself, once a week, go to the library, check something out. Check it out. You can check it out. You can take it out to your car, look through the magazine or the page, and take it right back to the library. But that circulation counts. So if you want to help your library, go check out a library book. All right. Thank you.
All right. Moving on, the joint law enforcement, they did not meet, so that was taken off of the revised agenda. Director of Public Works, Todd, can you come up and give us an update?
Todd Lord, Director of Public Works, Cambridge. Got the playground repaired. We finally got warm enough weather to be able to move plastic around. we're doing cold patching right now, as much as we can. We're taking down dangerous trees. That's what we're doing right now. And we have Tree Works helping us take these trees down. We're still doing trimming too of Main Street, or not Main Street, but all streets. Trimming branches and cleaning up after ourselves and preparing for spring yet too, but yet still hanging on to winter, apparently.
What, the playground equipment, was that?
The bridge, it's called a bridge that comes across the playground.
Yeah.
Kids were damaging after a while, plastic has a tendency from freezing and thawing to start cracking. Well, kids decided to make it a little faster. So I was able to find the equipment through Lee Recreation, gave me the phone number for the people that still have this playground equipment. And I was able to get the equipment to repair it.
Okay.
Nice.
I just had to wait for warm weather to do it, and guess what today was?
Record setting, okay.
And thank you very much, Lisa, by the way, for sticking up for staff. Very much appreciated.
Okay. And so we're good and everything, no vehicle problems, nothing?
Now, right now,
Right.
we actually got the UTV running.
All right. Okay. Questions for Todd? Todd, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Okay.
Todd.
We'll bounce over to you here, but village office updates.
Final audit information has to be filed online by the end of this week, so we've all been working a lot to get them everything they need. They're hoping to finish up the audit by the end of March. They will then complete the PSC report and the Form C for us, so Vicki and Derek have also been providing a lot of information onto the site for the PSC report. February tax settlements were completed with the other taxing jurisdictions. Todd and I are finishing up on employee evaluations. A lot of election preparation going on, registrations, absentee ballots, notices. Initial military ballots have already had to be sent out for April election. The notice has to be to the paper this week for normal. So a lot of stuff going on with the election. Working with PSC, Ellers, and the DNR on well 3 and the rate case. A public hearing will be set up. PSC will set up the public meeting for the rate case. That will be later in March. We're hoping to have a date to put on the bills when they go out next week. So all residents have that date if they're interested. But PSC sets the date, so we've given them dates at work. We're waiting to hear back from them. Rezone and CUP will be on the next Plan Commission meeting, so been working with the applicants. Notices were sent out to the newspaper for publishing and to neighboring property owners. Vicki's been working on updating the application for the Amundsen rentals for our last meeting, so those are about to be ready to go live, so.
All right. Questions for Lisa? Okay, we got that. We're going to move on. Treasurer's report bills. Lisa, I do not see Tammy.
No.
So you're going to be carrying this one tonight.
First, one of the bills was $246,932.51. The bulk of that being two of our general obligation bond payments. Second round was in the amount of $6,212.92 for a total of $253,145.33.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills in the amount of $253,145.33.
I'll second.
All right. Questions? The bills? All right, I saw the two checks. Okay, kind of clean this out, but Roll call, please.
Trustee Franklin, Whitmer, Cronenberg. Yes. Christ.
Yes.
Blackwood. Yes. Bryant.
Yes.
McNally.
Yes. All right, so we got the bills, and then I see our budget in here.
So what Tammy put in here for you is the budget comparison, which has last year's, this year where we are today, what was budgeted in the percent, in response to a request to have a comparison to the previous year. She also has, she highlighted the top to see last year's budget comparison from this time frame compared to this year's. It's hard to merge the two. You can't just merge the two within Workhorse because you add categories and stuff, they don't line up exactly. So she did give the comparison last year at this time to this year, as well as this year's budget comparison.
So can you explain, I guess, on the second set of statements I'm looking at, what she sent out, whereas January 31st, 23 versus January 24? Looking at that set of statements. The top line, general property taxes. Last year, we were at 190,000 in the hole. This year, we have $3.7 million. Our budget was
Yeah.
$1.6 million, even though we only approved 700,000 in our budget, something in that number. What's going on with that line item?
It's also what we collect from other municipalities that we then pay out the settlements to, you know, these lines don't necessarily match. Last year,
Can we get it cleaned up? They should match.
It would, so it really depends on, like, the timings of checks on when we pay out those settlements, because we
Okay.
collect all of those dollars.
Yeah,
So we have to send a check to MATC, we have to send a check to the counties and things
know.
like that.
but why would it be negative last year? We sent it out before we had it?
I think at one point last year, we did find it was coded incorrectly when journal entries are done and so forth. But
Can we get it cleaned up?
I don't know exactly. We can't go back and change 2023 numbers in here. In the accounting software.
Okay. 24 is
But-
definitely wrong.
No, not if we've collected 300s. You'll see in other spots where those tax settlements, and they may not be in the 100 account, they may be in the 200, where those big amounts were paid out to all the other taxing jurisdictions. That's one thing I hate about government accounting. The expenses and the revenues are not in the same lines. You have to find it here and there to match up. But this is what we've collected as of that day, but we paid out a couple $1 million to other taxing jurisdictions.
But there's nowhere in here where there's a $2 million.
I believe the tax payments out are in a 900 account. They may not be in a 100 account.
But shouldn't that be cleaned up? That's
No,
There's nothing else to clean
that is
the
the,
wrong fund.
No, it's not.
no, it is not. The accountants would tell us if, or the auditors, if it was the wrong fund. I want to say, and I'm not the treasurer, I don't know for sure. I believe there's like a 920 account where the taxing payments are going out to, and if it needs to be a journal entry, they will provide us with the journal entry to fix that. The taxes are the one that always takes the longest to get it exactly what it needs to be at the end of the year, between the journal
I
entries
just
and so
remember
forth.
talking to the auditor, and he mentioned that was a little confusing, and that's something they could help with, so we get it straight.
And they are going to be in the office next year. Last year, they weren't in the office, or next week. So I know Tammy has a list of stuff to talk to him about, and how and when the taxes are put in and where is one question she does have for them.
And on page 5,
of the second
Financial
one.
administrator, assessor. About 5 numbers down.
Yeah,
We spent $3,000 last year. This year in 1 month, we spent $12,300, and our budget's $15,000. So something looks off there to me. Or we gotta-
that's going to be a question for Tammy.
Well, can you follow up with her and see if we get an
Mhm.
answer? Then on page 7, Public Works wages. Last year, we spent $9,700 in a month. This year, we spent double that, $18,900.
We had a lot of snow.
And our budget's, what, $120,000?
We had a lot of snow. That's the danger of looking from year to year.
So do we have a budget problem then for the year? Or is that gonna come back?
Hopefully not, you know, we had overtime, we had to plow snow.
Okay.
So that is built into the budget, knowing we have overtime. But they got clobbered hard for, talking to us for 2 weeks. They were,
Snow, you can't just plow snow, you have to remove snow too.
yeah,
Especially with that heat.
It's an ongoing thing to take for 22 inches of snow in 4 days. That was about, what, 2.5 to 3 weeks of loose snow.
So, yeah, with no snow then since then, we should probably get back online then by then.
yeah, there hasn't been overtime
No.
since then, but, and the guys are good too. If they've worked 60 hours, they may not come in on Friday, or just one person here to make sure all the testing is done and so forth, but they're good, and they're tired, so if they can, they will try to minimize that overtime.
Are you finished with yours? Going back to page 5, if you could have Tammy look at the general administration. We're at $15,357. We're $9,300 over what we had budgeted here. And I'm not sure what that is, and I don't expect you to know right now, Lisa.
Yeah, I will check with her.
Okay. All right, are there any other questions from the trustees? All right, we'll look forward then to Tammy, I guess, answering those when she shows up next. All right. Okay, let's move on to some new business. Updated officer information, Quick Trip liquor license.
Yep, this is a form that they have to fill out if they have a change of officers. So they did have a change of their treasurer, sent this to us. So just an approval that we receive this and accept their change of officer, their
Okay.
AP 103 form.
Anybody care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the updated officer information for the Quick Trip liquor license.
Second.
Kristen, you get the nod on this one then? Okay. There isn't anything further, is there? I mean,
No,
okay.
no.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed, carries. We already covered the tree planting. Let's go to the street use permit. Townsend Street, May 25th, 2024.
I'll make a motion to approve the street permit for Townsend Street on May 25th.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion?
I'm sorry, in that one, are they actually blocking streets?
It is a dead end that goes up
Yeah.
to the playground.
I was gonna say, that's the one by the back side of the
Yeah.
elementary school.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Chad did look at it, and Chad signed off,
He's okay.
police signed
All right.
off on it. Mhm.
All right.
Okay. All right. Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. I guess there's going to be a party, and we're all invited to it, should we want to go, on Saturday May 25th. I thought I read in here somewhere. Why? Because we're awesome small-town folks and want to get to know our neighbors. Okay, so,
Block party, though.
It's a block party. It's really intended for Johnson Street, Townsend, and
Yeah,
other cross streets.
it's not a general open.
yeah, I'm sorry. It's just, you know, hey, I'm up for parties anywhere. We can go. All right. Let's go to item D. CAP request to block the parking on Main Street, August 18th, 7:30 to 9:30 for the Tri-Cambridge.
I'll make a motion to approve the to block parking on Main Street, August 18th from 7:30 to 9:30 for the Tri-Cambridge Tribe.
A second.
All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay.
I'm very excited that Tri-Cambridge is back on. So that's good luck. No.
What is it?
I volunteered 1 year, but
It's
no.
a
Triathlon.
triathlon?
It's a triathlon. They swim in Lake Ripley, then they bike.
through
Yep, and they bike all
area, yep.
around, and then they run.
So it's our version or their version of an Ironman.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
It's a little smaller.
Little
Full marathon, and not the full.
Okay.
It's a little smaller.
But-
Yeah.
All right.
It's,
Okay. All right, well, that's
it's very well attended.
good. All right. Let's see here. Moving on, Cambridge Arts Council. Now, there is a whole bunch.
I'll make a motion to approve the Cambridge Arts Council street use permit for Main Street to Highland on Pleasant Street to Main Street on June 8th and 9th.
Okay, got a motion. We have a second.
A second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay. Next one.
I'll make a motion to approve the Cambridge Arts Council street use permit on Main Street to Highland Drive on June 8th, from June 8th and 9th, 2024 for Midwest Fire Fest.
Okay, we got a motion.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Who wants to do F?
You mean G? G?
We're on G now.
Oh, okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the Cambridge Arts Council temporary class B wine and beer license, West Side Park, June 8th and 2024 for Midwest Fire Fest.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, carries. All right, let's go to H.
Cambridge Art Council Park Reservation, West Side Park, June 8th and 9th, Midwest Fire Fest. Make a motion we approve.
Okay.
I'll second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay. Coming up on I here.
I'll make a motion to approve the Cambridge Arts Council Park Reservation at Veterans Park, May 31st, June 14th, and 28th, July 12th, and 26th, 2024, for the summer concert series.
Okay.
Second.
Second.
All right. Bill, you get the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, keeps going. How about J?
I think Jay's yours.
I'll make a motion to approve the Cambridge Arts Council street use permit, North Street, for May 31st, June 14th and 28th, June 12th and 26th of 2024 for the summer concert series.
All right.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion, a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay. This should make the Arts Council happy. Let them know. All right, Village Board Compensation Policy. Lisa, I'm going to throw this back to you.
Yep. So I have a memo in the packet, kind of our ordinances and the resolutions, the fees that we set. Couple things I wanted to clarify again with respect to the staff. First, we do have a draft policy in here asking that, let me find it, my things aren't in order here. The draft policy for this saying, per our fee schedule, that anything, we have changed to having the form where members sign in at committee meetings that we hold and board meetings that we hold. For other payments for meetings outside of these, to have a time frame that they have to be in by the end of the quarter. It gets very complicated, crossing quarters, crossing years. Not always sure what's been paid, what hasn't been paid, so to make that easier, we did do up a form that we would give others. We haven't always gotten fire commission meetings or library or Dane County cities and villages, other meetings that board members are assigned to sit on that are meetings that we may not be staffing. So people could give us these by the end of the quarter. Feel free to monthly if you want. So Judy can get them in the system in a timely manner. We have them in, so when we're doing our state and federal reporting and so forth that we have to do, it's accurate, it's in a timely manner. So that is the compensation policy aspect. Two other things that I did have on there. A clarification of what constitutes a scheduled personal meeting to conduct official village business. That is part of our fee schedule as the village president gets paid for those other types of meetings. Clarification of what those meetings are. So I'm not making the judgment call if this should be paid for or not. Is it groups that we are a partner of
So my question on that is, it seems to me that the $3,600 the president gets paid should cover all of those personal meetings, and that that an additional payment wouldn't be made for those. That's what that $3,600 is for.
and that's what
I mean,
the
that's what I
decision.
always thought.
And the next agenda item is the revised, which I'm bringing this up because it will play into it, the revised resolution. The two changes that I made on there, the 2022 one was wrong for some reason. It's not $3,600, it's now $309 a month, so $3,708, and that's been in place for years. So that just wasn't correct on the 2022 one. And then I added committee, commission, and board members. For the public members that sit on those boards, they get paid the $20 per meeting as well. But the resolution only had village board and village trustees. So adding those public members as well. So
I have a question first about the, so if I choose not to submit, I know you were talking about having to report for federal. Are you reporting for federal what you're actually paying us? So I can still be on the library, I can attend the library meeting. If I choose not to submit for payment, then you just wouldn't pay me for those.
and that's kind of what I put in the policy, that if it is not filed in a timely manner, you don't receive it. So if you don't hand in,
Yep.
you wouldn't
Okay.
be.
All right. So, but the filing that you have to do with state and federal, which needs to be timely, really is directly related to the actual payments we're making out to us.
Yes.
Okay, not the work we're doing, but the payments that are.
The payments.
Great.
The one that has to be timely is, it has to be timely from when it's paid, not when the service was rendered. Doesn't matter when the service is rendered, it only matters
It's
when
very
it's paid.
difficult for the staff to receive 7 months at one time and go through when some have been paid already, some haven't. some have been paid
Yeah,
twice.
but that
Yeah.
has nothing to do with tax filings.
It's,
No, I was talking,
well, it does if it is received the next year after a W-2 has been given.
But then it goes on the next year's W-2.
It's not budgeted for that year, though.
Okay,
Well,
I think you're making a mountain out of a molehill.
I'm told I can't make, and I don't make policy. I am asking for board direction. If the board wants to say, pay them whenever you want, pay them whenever you want, and
I have,
but then don't come back if the
I think
budget
it's
is,
reasonable to
you know.
ask that the paperwork be turned in on a quarterly basis. I
Yeah.
don't think that's
I agree.
unreasonable at all.
My staff doesn't get paid if they don't hand in their timesheets.
Right.
You know, it's, I just need clarification. I don't want to be making decisions on my own.
Right.
I think they should be paid
Quarterly.
quarterly,
Yeah.
or, turned in quarterly.
And then underneath the per diems, if you go to that fee schedule on the second page, for, on licenses, miscellaneous permits, and administrative fee schedule, if you go under the village president, you've got the annually, you've got the, how much per board meeting, and then you've got the $20. I think the $20 should be per standing committee meeting, period. And then that other scheduled personal meeting to conduct official business, to me, that's what that $3,700 covers. Because other than that, the president doesn't really do anything different than the rest of us on the board. And he's already getting paid, or they're already getting paid twice as much per village board meeting, but that's because they have to do some prep for
Let's get the $40 per village board
Okay,
meeting
all right.
and $20 per committee meeting.
$20 per, yeah, so I think
That's
I think that's reasonable, and that $3,700 covers the prep then for the board meeting and all of those different personal meetings that might come up during the year.
So you're suggesting that we strike the $20?
No, the $20 should read, $20 per standing committee meeting, period. And just end it there, and take off the last part of that.
The only committee that I go to, that I charge for, and I go to a lot of other meetings. I go to Santa Claus, and I get a little speech. I don't charge for that. I don't charge for the, when they had check with the wine walk. I go to the Fire Fest. I don't charge for any of that.
Why would you?
Well, because you're there. You're officially there. I am
You're not there
asking.
as village president.
Yeah, I am.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am. I have had to.
We aren't aspiring to be there as village president.
Maybe you might want to tell some of these people, because when they have a problem, for instance, with law enforcement, who do you think gets called? And making sure that I ask, because it doesn't come up any other way. There's no law enforcement here. How many times have we had it where I have come to you and I have said, there is the Fire Fest, and we need to have law enforcement available.
Laura is terrible about Mark. Laura talks to law enforcement. She does a walkthrough of the site.
I've been down there, and I don't sit there and throw myself around. I don't charge for it. I'm there to make sure that everything is okay. But, I'm trying to think of some of the other activities.
Anyway, Mark, which one do you charge for?
The only one I charge for is the Main Street Business Association.
That's crap, Mark.
Well, it's economic development.
You shouldn't be, that's not economic
I
development.
don't charge when I go there.
You shouldn't be charging, I mean, no one's asking you to go to those meetings.
We don't have a Chamber of Commerce. We don't really have an Economic Development Committee.
We should.
We don't.
Well, why don't you work on making sure we have an economic development committee?
I have tried, and I'm going to just leave it at that. This is the best thing that we have. It's already in place. It's already functioning. All the businesses are going to it.
No, they aren't, Mark. That's the problem.
When they are going anywhere else, Paula.
But
No, there's no but. Maybe I should go to one of the meetings.
I have gone
Okay.
to a meeting,
All right.
and I'll give you a charge for it.
Well, when I'm there, I'm representing the village, I'm answering questions as to what,
Maybe you shouldn't be answering questions. Maybe if they have questions for the village, it should be directed to our administrative staff.
some of that does get routed back to the administrative staff.
It all should, Mark.
Well, there are things that I get asked because they don't feel that they're getting answered any other way. And if there's a way that I can help to make sure.
This is the forum for that, right here.
A big deal out of somebody asking to have law enforcement.
I don't know, we're going back
Because
to
the issue, law enforcement is not going to be there the whole time. They know when Fall Fest is on, when
it's
they're
not just that.
coming and go, but, if they want law enforcement there the whole time, the organization has to pay for it.
There's
have
never
you-
been a
But-
problem with law enforcement
but-
at Firefest.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about Firefest, but I was interrupted. What I was talking about is we had, this past October, we had a situation where the kids were meeting down at the park, West Side Park, all right? I took it upon myself to make sure that law enforcement knew upon that, because the kids were going to be trick-or-treating, going up the street and coming back down. And there was a concern about having that many kids, and it's dark out. And so, yes, that came about because of my involvement with our Main Street Business Association. Now, is that against what Cambridge is about? I would think not. I would hope not.
Mark, nobody's saying that.
Well, good, because that's what comes out of when I attend this meeting. We don't have anything else, Paula. I don't think that going to the Main Street businesses is a terrible use of my time.
I don't think so either, just don't charge.
Just don't charge back for it, Mark.
We're not in this business for making
again-
money.
I know that.
So if we take off the and per schedule personal meeting to conduct official village business lasting longer than 1 hour, if we take that off, this is a moot point.
Yeah, yep.
And again, I think that's part of what that $3,700 that the village president gets is to pay for. This that stuff that the village president takes upon, our current village president takes upon himself to do.
It also removes the ambiguity of what official village business
Yes.
is.
Yes,
Because
then that
And
takes
that's
that
where
away.
I
You
have
could,
to decide.
It's a gray area.
That's a,
Um,
yeah.
that's not fair.
Is it a meeting with one
Yeah.
person, or does it have to be a meeting I set up with
Yeah.
future developers, or, I,
Just take that.
All right.
So I'd like to make a motion to amend the,
first, we're on the policy.
policy.
So if we want to, it's up to you if you want to adopt a policy or not on the quarterly.
More administration. I mean, we don't, the policy is.
Easier. This would make it easier.
But that's an administrative procedure. I don't think you need our approval for it. It's
I
admin-
do so that if I receive stuff 7 months later, I find out I'm paying it or not. If I'm authorized to pay stuff in the next year for previous year work, I don't want it coming back on me that we're over budget. It,
I'll make a motion to approve the Village of Cambridge Village Board compensation policy.
I will second.
Any further questions?
No,
Here?
I think it's reasonable.
Oh,
That's this one.
that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bill? Nothing? Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I,
Okay.
the need for it.
Yeah. Okay, and then resolution 2024-02, fee schedule.
I'd like to make a motion to, make an adjustment in the resolution 2024-02 to change the section under village president, the $20 section to read per standing committee meeting.
I'll second.
I have a question earlier on the schedule, on the permits. Under banners, $200, $100 to put up, $100 to take down. Is that enough? Are we covering our costs there? I mean, I assume you're taking equipment out and running equipment and.
No, then, we've in the past had people do it for free, and then they stopped doing it, somebody was charging us. We don't have the equipment, it's for the banners across Main Street.
So we hire someone?
So we hired somebody at this point, right now, they're not charging us.
Alliant Energy's doing it.
Alliant is doing it now pro bono.
Yeah, that's.
So then we are covering our costs.
So, yeah. But if we have to hire somebody, that's when that was implemented, because we were paying $200 for a banner, and when they apply, they're not paying anything, or weren't. So we have been waiving the fee if it is done for free.
So in the next section, property special charges, we have policies in place for all those when those kick in and.
Yes, we do. Yeah. Oh, and actually, though, when I looked, this refuse and recycling is wrong. It's $126 right now. That goes on the tax roll. Was approved at some point. So I don't know why that. So if you want to add that change to Paula, that would.
Oh, and also make a motion to change, or include it in my motion to change the, the
Refuse.
and recycling to $126 placed on the tax roll.
I'll second that as well.
That's been in place for a long time. That was before I left the board the first time. That.
So,
Yeah. Okay.
Is weed elimination rolled into lawn mowing?
yes,
Okay.
that's all the same ordinance.
I know we've had
there.
to
Yeah.
actually use that.
Yeah.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All those,
Can I ask a question about, since we were talking about trees earlier, this $175 for the first hour, we're not going to do the tree removal on private property? Are these public
No.
trees? What are they?
No, I don't think we've ever used that tree care removal one. I'm
What I
not.
would think that would be is if I had a tree on my property that fell into the public right of way, and Public Works would have to come and remove it, I would be charged back for that.
For
I would
that,
think that's
yeah.
what that fee is for.
Yeah.
That would make
Um,
sense.
yeah, and I don't know that we've ever,
Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you.
Snow and ice, the weed, the mowing, that stuff we all do often, use often.
okay. Back to the matter at hand. We've got a motion and a second for the fee schedule. All those in favor of changing this, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? Carries. Okay, Fire Commission update.
Fire Commission update, I sent our Treasurer Secretary a email requesting a special meeting for this Friday at 6:30. The venue could be anywhere, it could be at the firehouse, fire station. I wanted to discuss our financial picture, where we sit, because we're coming up on a timeline for second quarter for Cambridge. We made the decision as a board to not pay the second quarter payment if we didn't receive something from the Fire Commission in the semblance of a approved budget. So I wanted to get that going, and that meeting was turned away, I guess, from the chair, Mr. Cook, because of scheduling conflicts or whatever the case is. So if there's any questions or concerns, I invited our Treasury Secretary, Sheila Palenkas, in tonight to answer anything that the board may have. We are trying, from an Oakland and Cambridge standpoint, to to have meetings, to get things done, but it seems to be very problematic.
So doesn't our current IGA say they have to meet quarterly? So they have to have a meeting by March, sometime in March, at the worst case scenario.
Sheila, were you basically told to meet with the lawyer? That was the gist of it?
He told me that there would be no meeting until I had a meeting with Paul to go over the budget for this year, and that would need to be done with the new commission attorney. So it sounds like we have a meeting scheduled for Friday at 11 a.m. at the attorney's office in Janesville.
So when you say go over the budget, what does that mean?
And why would Paul?
I guess the reason I asked the question is, your first quarter, you sent out a first quarter results, and I don't remember the exact number, but it was like they overspent like $200,000 for the quarter, or $100,000 or something.
Well, by the end of March, we will have overspent by $116,356.51.
Yeah. So if you, I mean, on an annual basis, that's $500,000. There isn't funds for that. I mean,
We won't have, we don't have the money.
So I guess that's why I asked the question, what is it, is your meeting to come up with a revised budget they can live within their means, or is it to just rehash what was there before? I mean, I appreciate the concern about getting the budget approved. I'm more concerned about the fact we're looking at $500,000 deficit. No one's even talking about it.
In addition to the 300 from last year?
So, and why is Paul involved? All Paul's responsibility is to submit a budget to the EMS commission. It's the commission's responsibility to
Yes.
create that budget.
That's
So
correct.
why are you meeting with Paul and a lawyer?
Because that's what Mark Cook wants.
How does Mark Cook have so much power?
I requested the special meeting per the IGA, is, you know, any two members can request a special meeting. But he stated in an email that I forwarded on to our administrator, that there will be no meeting until our treasurer meets with Paul Blount.
I wouldn't meet with him alone if I were you, Sheila. I would have somebody else there as a witness.
Well, there's going to be a lawyer there.
A lawyer.
I wouldn't trust
I
the
still
lawyer.
wouldn't trust the lawyer.
Where is it?
It's
I don't know if we have a whole commission meeting, you know, and if John wants to be there, if Joe wants to be there, you know, whatever the case is, you know.
I mean, in theory, they should be there. They should be presenting their portions of the budget to the commission.
Yeah.
So
Any question?
I'm from the town of Cristiano. I live in Highland Drive. I've contacted Mark and trying to get on the commission.
Okay.
20-something-year firefighter, 17-year EMS. So I thought I could bring something to the table for that.
Well, thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
And has he replied to you?
He said he was gonna take it to the other commissioner, so, you know, I haven't heard anything. But it sounds like he's gone the lawyer way.
Is there,
Makes no sense to me.
What?
Spending extra money to do that.
so once again, the Fire and EMS Commission is not currently meeting the current IGA rules. They're not meeting. I mean, if two commissioners call for a meeting, you're supposed to have a meeting, right?
Right.
We could have a meeting, and it would be like a peer, because it would just be the two of us, and we'd have to adjourn it because we don't have a quorum.
Why wouldn't Lake Mills or Rockdale be there? Mark is not the only person who can call a
Are they
meeting.
being instructed to not be there? Why are the other two commission members not?
My opinion,
Mhm.
he won't post it, so it'll be an illegal meeting. He'll manipulate it.
He won't post it.
It doesn't have to be posted in every municipality. It has to be posted according to what public meeting posting rules are.
He would argue that.
3 locations,
3 locations is what the,
yeah.
I mean, we can go ahead and schedule it. The two of us agree, and that's supported by the IGA. It's just, then we'll have to wait and see who shows up. Now, one thing that we could also do is, this meeting is scheduled for the 11th. We could pick a date and, for next week, and put it out there.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
I mean, it seems to me that the commission has to do something about the spending that's happening
We
to
do.
try and wane it,
We're bleeding it.
rein it in.
And I guess one question that I have is if we can't get the commission to abide by this IGA, what makes us think we're going to get the commission to abide by the new IGA?
Because we're gonna have more teeth in being able to enforce, that's that last section of the IGA
Yeah.
that we've talked to Jane, that we need more enforcement.
Yes.
Capabilities that we do not have today.
Okay.
Well, hopefully the obstacle that we're talking about will be gone.
So, have you two talked to the other?
Consider we're almost past that now. That maybe it might be up to the municipalities to.
I mean, I don't know how we're gonna get through this year.
Have you guys talked to the?
My point is
Right.
that we might be past the commission and might be in the municipality directly to get to the bottom.
Oh.
That's my opinion, from what I know. It's a mess, absolute mess.
But have you two talked to the other Lake Mills and the Rockdale representative and asked them to schedule a meeting with you? Or just the two of
I've
you?
reached out with a request
Yeah, we
and received nothing, I don't believe received any response back
From either of them?
from either of them. And we got a response back from Mr. Cook saying there will be no meeting.
Well, could you call them and talk to them personally and
Can
say?
I beg them to do their job? Is that what you're asking me to do?
Yeah.
Well, I
Okay.
talked to one person, Rockdale, and her question had to do with whether or not, Paul and Jason would be, involved or invited. And of course they would be, because we're talking about money. But
What's
no,
my
we
concession? So.
haven't gotten any other.
Anybody can come.
Yeah.
Do we know the causes of the overages so far this year? Is it payroll? Is it overtime? Is it
Well, most of it is in payroll.
payroll?
Yeah, most of it is in payroll.
So if we're overstaffed, maybe we need to challenge them to cut back on staffing.
We've got,
I mean, that's what we as a municipality would have to do.
They're keeping an ambulance in Lake Mills now. And that means that cut time, I'm watching the ambulance go by my house every day, at least 4 or 5 times a day. I'm on Highway A there, and the ambulance is coming from Lake Mills and headed for Cambridge.
Headed
So
for
why would the
Cambridge?
ambulance be, that's supposed to be here, why is it coming out of Lake Mills to come here? Or to go to Oakland?
There's a EMS station number 2 located in Lake Mills. I drove by it the other day.
we've been year to date.
Which is supposed to be fully funded, everyone from all municipalities. And it does say this building is not staffed 24/7, so please call this number. So I don't know where the staff, if they're coming from here, if they might have a building there.
Why have a
Or if
building?
they're coming from here.
So can you show us what overtime is so far this year?
For the payrolls, for the first, well, for the payrolls so far year to date, we are per pay period between 300 and, one was 500, hours of overtime per payroll.
For full-time? Full-time, for 20?
Hours of overtime per pay period, yes.
So, why should we have that much overtime? First of all, it's not safe. Thank you for asking that question.
Well, there's a roster, I believe, 34, but we don't know how many employees are actually working each shift or each week.
34 staff on EMS.
Can we
staff on EMS?
The
That's not a
roster,
realistic number. That
Yeah.
includes volunteers who
It
are
was-
active, that
All right.
includes employees who have not worked for months.
okay.
So
well, that-
can we ask for a run sheet of who's putting in hours and what their hours are?
I've asked for that for the meeting on Friday.
And on our next agenda, can you say there is no overtime approved without prior approval?
By whom?
By the full EMS commission, and I think it's
Well, should put that down, otherwise they're gonna get Paul Blunt to approve it.
Right.
We've got to also take a look, I mean,
Does Mr. Blunt and the deputy director, do they run? Do they take shift?
not regularly, no.
So in all this overtime,
If we continue to do what we've done, which is just send memos out and ask for meetings, I guess I would ask the two of you, since you're here, to personally contact the other members of the commission and try to get them to buy into doing the meeting. I know it isn't great, they gotta beg them, but if we keep doing what we've always done, we're gonna get nowhere. We gotta do something different. We gotta contact these people direct and put them on the spot and say, put your butt in the meeting and what's wrong with you?
and we've already reached past the point of the arbitration, correct? That
They did, the new attorney did reach out to Jane.
To Jane.
And said they knew, they didn't think it was realistic for them as they're trying to, she did have a good conversation
Okay,
with the new attorney.
okay.
So she
March
has,
date got backed up a little bit, or
yeah,
pushed
yeah.
back?
yeah, that they would not be ready as they just took on the commission.
Okay.
So on a side note, I know I missed the last meeting, I know you guys went into closed session and you worked according on with Jane on the IGA terminologies. Did you also at that meeting decide not to continue our police fire every other meeting, that we were looking at alternatives and what we were gonna do? Because they're not scheduled, they didn't happen and they're still not scheduled.
So we're putting it on hold until we get the first draft, because we wanted the other municipalities to know that we are committed to trying the RGA path. So we wanted to at least have the first draft before it looks like we're also double dealing on something else.
When's the first draft supposed to be?
In April, like the 1st of April.
First of April?
Yeah.
No, that's not gonna give us a lot of time.
It was just delayed by 6 weeks.
May I ask a question?
It's been a free fall, so go ahead.
At least I raised my hand.
Yes, you did, Jana. Thank you.
I just have a question. I understand the coming together of trying to put another new IGA together, and I think that's great, but I agree with Chris's point about if they're not gonna follow the old one, why are they gonna follow the new one? But I think the bigger issue that everyone has not lost track of after hearing that shocking information is, it doesn't matter what that IGA is gonna say if we can't get this financial disaster under control. Based on what she's telling you, I was at the open meeting the other night, and they've paid in their quarterly dues already. So we only have how much money left to get us through till April 1st?
Well, what I sent out to you guys is up to date. As of today, there's 84,000 in the checking account, but there's a $55,000 past due invoice for the last apparatus payment for the engine.
Yes.
So
Due?
it's past due by about 7 days.
Why is it?
Past
It didn't turn up until just recently, and there was not a good record of the PNC lease payment. It was thought that those were all through the bank. Anyway, we have it, we knew,
So there's an additional 50-some thousand. So that leaves us 39,000 in the checking, and how much is left in the savings?
120.
So that's gonna be gone by the end of the quarter.
Right, what I sent you guys,
Everything's
you know,
gonna
the
be gone by the end of the
116,000, that 116,000 loss, that includes the $55,000 payment. So it'll take the $120,000 to offset that. And we will enter the second quarter with about maybe $30,000. Keep in mind that the numbers that I put in here, the 175,000, that's expected to pay through 3/31, okay? It does not include routine expenses like water, light, things like that. It's just big stuff. So we're gonna start the first quarter or the second quarter with a very thin layer of protection whatsoever.
I think you have to impress. I don't know how we strongly, I don't know if we as a board want to send a letter to each of the representatives of the Fire and EMS Commission that says, we expect you to do your jobs. These are the dangers that we see that are coming up that have to be addressed by this commission. So you need to have a meeting. You know, we strongly encourage you to have a meeting with a quorum so that these things can be addressed. I don't know what else we do. We can't.
Put our head in the sand and pretend it's gonna go away.
So, I mean, Lisa, you were fairly successful in, I mean, we as a village were fairly successful in saying, we want a meeting of all 5 municipalities. This is the date we picked. Everybody who hears your invites, get there if you can. So do we as a board need to do something similar to that with the Fire and EMS Commission and start sending letters directly to the Fire and EMS Commission members from each of the municipalities?
And especially if we have an individual from Christiana who's willing to step in.
Why, I mean, that should be a priority. If Mr. Cook does not want to do his job, which it doesn't appear he really wants to do his job, we need the board to meet to get a new individual in there who's willing to do it.
So, in a nutshell, that's my update.
I don't envy you.
I don't understand how you meeting with Paul is gonna resolve anything on Friday.
It probably,
I don't feel you should do it alone either.
No,
No.
I think that's a terrible idea.
That's why I put the request in for a meeting of the whole
Yeah.
commission, so Paul's welcome to come, Joe's welcome, everybody's, you know, it's an open meeting, it's not closed, and we could, you know, I know that you set up a meeting to just talk about the financials, and that meeting got thrown out. So it's not for lack of trying,
well,
but,
we agreed to that at the last commission meeting on the 7th. We
Right.
agreed that we were all going to meet together as a committee of the whole,
Mhm.
work through this budget
That's right.
so that we could bring it back.
And what happened with
before
that?
April 1st.
what happened with that meeting?
Is it another case of Mr. Cook says, no, we're not having a meeting?
Yes.
He didn't remember us
he
talking
can't,
about
though.
that.
If two of you in the IGA, if two of you call for a meeting, that sets the meeting.
Yes, it
Mark
does.
can't then say there is no meeting.
There is no meeting.
He can choose not to go.
Yep, the secretary is, your secretary treasurer, you are the one that provides notice of the meeting to the commission members, and then also to the public pursuant to open meetings laws. So technically, you have the authority to say whether there's going to be a meeting or not. Whether they show up is a
Well,
different
We
topic.
could do it again.
Yep.
I think you almost have to.
We'll set it for next week.
All right.
Pick the day.
It's like beating against a brick wall.
Mm-hmm. It's section 2.1.7, if you're looking for the specific section for who can call a meeting and when. 2.1.7, conduct of business. All right,
Okay, so that's the meeting. Where are we at with the concerns that were articulated by the Village of Cambridge, and I take it the town of Oakland has done this as well, in getting that together?
You mean the mediation that we've already?
No, the communities are supposed to have it to the attorneys by the end of this month.
Yep.
Is that,
And
I
we gave
don't
ours
know
to
for
Jane.
sure.
Yeah, we gave ours to Jane and.
Yeah, I don't know if the other communities have, if
has
Jane's
Oakland done
done.
that, Sheila? Okay, so that is being worked on then, and hopefully.
Yeah, and we're the two municipalities who are creating that first draft, so that's,
I
yeah.
understand
Yeah.
that, and then it has to go to the other three for their
well,
approval, once that it gets nailed down. What are we gonna do with, because we're coming up on the next quarterly payment. You wrote a letter, correct, Lisa, that we would not be sending this in if we didn't have, what was it, a
And
budget?
budget.
Approved budget from the
Plus,
commission.
there was the list of the 10,
Well,
wasn't that
no,
included in
that
that too?
that was a different letter. I think with the payment for the first quarter, it was just the board approved paying the first quarter, the second quarter would not be paid until we received an approved budget from the Fire and EMS Commission.
But
When
you,
is the second payment due?
I think actually in the IGA is that within 60 days of when we received the bill, but
Generally speaking, when would that be?
I mean, they'd like it at the beginning of the quarter.
Well, we're gonna mail the bills out, March 1st.
so we have until May 1st, then 60 days to pay it.
And they'll have no funds.
Can we put
To
on the
pay bills.
agenda for the meeting before that? We can discuss that payment and what we're gonna do.
The payment will come before the board. You know, when we get the bill, I can put the bill on the
We gotta-
agenda, but
Tread carefully in not making that payment.
yeah,
We don't want to be blamed for
no.
the shutdown of the EMS services. So,
But we also can't
if we
let
don't,
them have,
I'm just saying, we
right, no, I agree with you.
discuss it and what the flavor of the water is at that point in time and what we want to do, not just put it on autopilot and not pay it. We don't get a budget.
No, I mean, that's why we're pushing. I mean, that's why right
I
now
understand that.
we're having the time. So I don't think, I agree with you, Bill, but I don't think anybody on this board is on autopilot. So in addition to Chris and Sheila calling for the meeting and seeing who shows up and who doesn't, do we as a board want to, I mean, okay, here's the whole thing. If we write them a letter, that's public record, we can send a copy of that letter to the newspaper to see if they might be interested in putting a story about it or adding it to a story they might have.
15 of you right here.
We can start talking, I know, we can start talking to, it can start
Yeah.
raising
Awareness,
constituents
More awareness.
so that they can start putting pressures on their own boards to do stuff about this. Because this isn't just a Cambridge and Oakland problem. I mean, Christiana and Lake Mills and
Rockdale.
Oakdale are still, I mean, this is still a concern for them too.
Oh, yeah.
And ignoring it obviously is not fixing
And
it.
ignoring it is not helping.
Public safety.
Yeah, right.
Roy, did you have something?
I was going to ask for an update about where the proposed IGA is at. I think I heard that the lawyer is working on a draft of that.
Yeah, and we're hoping to have a draft by April 1st, or on or around April 1st is the first draft, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, but getting back now to this payment that is due, or will be due, when you send out the language for this, Sheila. This is the budget. And I don't know if we have a choice. You already voted for it, correct?
Voted for what?
The budget. At the commission level.
So,
We
was-
did, but that
It was sent to the, voted to send it to the committees, and three communities
Did not.
did not approve it, so they did not have an approved budget.
No.
All right, so, but it's,
I voted back to last year's pre-RGA.
okay. The two of you voted for it.
To send it to the
To send it
communities.
to the communities.
Okay.
But to your point that I think you're trying to make is, at the time, there was a good case made for it, but we didn't have any supporting documents, meaning budget performance year-to-date or anything yet, because there have been no financial reports made, number one. No banking had been done except for paying, depositing checks and writing checks. So we had nothing to work with to see what the performance had been for 22 or 23. Okay? No checkbooks had been balanced, none of that. When we got a little further into this, started to see what had been going on and to actually see what we were spending and how it was tracking compared to budget, and there's no way that we could say that we would live with the same budget as 2023 because we didn't live within the budget in 2023.
We were over 300 some odd $1,000.
Yes.
Is that the cost of that new vehicle we got last year?
It's
That's how
payroll.
It's payroll.
A lot of it's
It's
payroll.
payroll.
Most of it is payroll and benefits. There are other things. There have been discussions about whether or not grant money could, grant spending and that sort of thing. But when you pull out the grant money and you pull out the money spent on grants, okay? You take 80,000 out, 80,000 in cash that we got in grants, and we take 80,000 expenses out. We are still over budget.
Significantly.
Okay, significantly. And most of it, if you look at it, you can see that most of it is in wages and benefits. Although there are plenty of other things too, but
Do you have an overtime estimate for any of the quarters from last year?
an estimate or actual?
Actuals.
I've asked the bookkeeper to put together the overtime per pay period for all of 22, all of 23
Okay.
at this point. I didn't figure we don't have the records for 22, we have to get those from Drews. But
Right.
she was able to get the summary records from Drews, and so I asked her to put together that for us to look at.
So that's your the fire commission budget. Based on what the board wanted me to do.
All throughout the idea, sending a letter, I think, to each of the commission members. Basically, our dissatisfaction that they're not meeting the need. I think maybe take it a step further and send it to each municipality board members, every board member from the municipality, and say, and I think we should start our meetings again looking at alternatives, and just flat out say we're very disappointed. From the tone of our meeting, we left that the other municipalities would be coming to the table and we're not doing this.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, we said that at the last meeting. The fire commission, fire and EMS commission still has a job to do. We have the
and we need to get a meeting, and here we're sitting now, 6 weeks later, whatever it's been. I think we need to start our meeting up and start looking at alternatives, and I want to meet with Oakland and get Oakland, if they'll work with us and find some alternatives, and not wait for the bus that's not moving to start moving. My personal opinion.
So what were you getting at, Mark, with the fact that we voted on the budget and you were under the impression that we voted yes on that budget, or what?
Yes.
And
I am.
fact.
Oh, okay. guys, that alarm me. One is that we have given notice that we're gonna leave, and, I don't know what's gonna happen. This is not just EMS. We said we were leaving the commission, which is EMS and the fire department. And I don't wanna be waiting around until October before we get going on the next, if this isn't gonna work out.
Nobody is saying that, Mark. All we asked was to delay it until we got the first draft. That's what we decided in closed session at our last meeting. And we
We gave notice in December that we were no longer part of the, as of 12/31/24, we were going to stop being a member of that commission, correct?
under that IGA.
That's correct. And we don't have anything that we have signed with anybody else right now, do we?
No, we're working on a new IGA with all 5 municipalities. Action. That is action we're taking, and we still have service through the end of the year.
Okay. And you're confident that we're going to be able to not worry about how this is going to look in the future? I'm not convinced.
We're not clairvoyant, but I mean,
I'm not being complaint, and I'm not saying, you've already talked to 3 other EMS things.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure we're gonna be able to make some sort of contract with the Cambridge Volunteer Fire Department. I'm thinking we could probably work something out with them. So I mean.
And they don't have equipment, how are they gonna do that?
Well, but then
You're not gonna sell all of the equipment for the fire department because you're not gonna be able to afford to replace any of it.
I understand, but it has to be worked out.
That's right, so you guys need to start working as a team.
Exactly my point, we gotta start moving forward.
And what happens, just hypothetically, if Oakland decides they want to go with Ryan Brothers, and Cambridge decides, you know what, we're for EMS now, we're going to go with Deer Grove.
Then we do
And that's fine. We do it. Then how does that affect the calculus of what we are paying in? Because what happens if ours is different than what theirs is? And it should be. I mean, they're twice the size, but not only that, but, there could be other considerations.
Paying in where?
For EMS.
But you just said we're gonna go with Deer Grove. That has nothing to do with Oakland. Oakland's gonna go different.
And what happens to Oakland's contribution then to the entire pie?
There is no pay anymore, Mark.
Well, okay, then we're back to that, and that is, this thing is blown apart.
Yep.
Correct, Mark.
It's blown apart.
Correct.
And our residents, here, I can't lie about Christiana and Oakland and,
Can I make a suggestion? Can you go to Mark Cook and say you need to have a commission meeting?
Yeah, well, you have a really good relationship with Mark Cook. Why don't you start pushing on him to step up and do his job?
well, I got voted out because I didn't have the records. And an hour and a half ago, I'm in too many meetings. I would do this because I do believe it's the most important thing.
I'm not asking you to have a meeting, I'm asking you just to make a phone call to Mark Cook and tell him to step up and do his work, do his job.
I can ask.
Yeah, or step aside.
I can ask, and I will do this, and there will not be a charge, okay?
I don't think that was.
I will do that, Joe. I can see what I can do to contact Mark and at least, what was the other gentleman that was behind you? What was
Dave Smith.
Dave Smith back?
And Bill, I agree with you. I think we should send letters to every board member of the municipalities and say, basically, you need to get your commission members together. We agreed in the spirit of the 5 municipalities to look at drafting the IGA, which means we have to work.
Yeah, I mean, if they're not gonna work with us, the new IGA isn't gonna solve anything.
We still have to
It's meeting, it's meeting and figuring out the budget and getting the spending under control immediately.
I felt like the 4 municipalities that had representatives
at that meeting.
All five did have, so no.
Some
Okay. Who were
members.
Yes, I thought they all understood the importance of getting right-sized this year too. And it seems to me, right, it seems to me that's gone right away.
All right. I am willing to go ahead to Mark Cook, and I will do that, and I will get back with all of the board members with an email. All right? It may take me a couple of days, but I'll
Send it to Lisa.
Send it on.
now I have a request for a fellow trustee that, he doesn't know this is coming, but, Bill, would you be willing to spend some time with Sheila to get at the numbers?
Sure, I mean, she's doing a pretty good job.
Well, you have a critical eye, and you go through it, and you know, I just, to find out what is going on here with the budget.
I want to do that, but I think she doesn't have all the information that's needed.
I think the problem is
Getting there.
that people are keeping information from Sheila.
Right.
And that's what
We
I
can't
think
have
the
a-
issue is.
Well,
A good look
it
at the
would
budget.
make me feel better if you would start to do that kind of an inquiry to find out where the numbers are at.
Well, we know, Mark, where the numbers are at. I mean, we know how much money we have spent, okay? We know exactly how much money we spent all of last year, and for that matter, 22 at this point. We know exactly, okay?
You just don't know each bucket specifically across the board.
There are still some expenses that are uncategorized, and we just put those in a bucket called uncategorized expenses. We know that there's no way in hell we can possibly live within a 2023 budget, which is what was proposed.
Not when you
because
propose.
we did do it in 2023. There's no mystery about that at all, okay? And no disrespect to Bill, but he and I talk fairly often. I think I'm more than happy to talk with you. In fact, I tried to call you yesterday to ask you, I ended up hanging up, but, because I had to go to school. But, I do, it'll be interesting to see what happens on Friday and what massage, has been applied to the budget that was proposed. But when I look at it, there's no way that it can fly based on what we know about 2023.
All right, well, if you're happy with Bill, Bill is happy with you, I would like if you two would talk. Just to see. Okay, all right.
Come with me on Friday.
Lisa,
Sure, why not?
based on what we've talked about,
Okay.
Some time and stuff.
I would draft a letter to the EMS board members, and then we'd CC all of the members of each of the municipalities and ask them to do their jobs. Could you draft something like that?
Scanned in and then email it out, or what?
And then, yeah, can you,
So that postage issue?
I sent email addresses for the last meeting.
and so could you draft that, and then, because I'd rather not wait till the next meeting, can you do like Jane has done? Here's what I've drafted, please reply just back to me with any comments on this draft, and we can get something sent out. Does the rest of the board think that's a reasonable thing to do?
I think that's reasonable.
Okay. All right. Well, that was quick. Fire commission update. Going to move on. Item 10, correspondence. Nothing. Okay. Questions or comments to staff for future agenda items? We have Dane County Sheriff Kelvin Baird coming in next meeting, and to give us his assessment of law enforcement here in Dane County. And the police, not the police and fire, but the joint law enforcement they're going to try to be here, or maybe they?
No, they scheduled a meeting to coincide.
To coincide.
Okay.
He has agreed to
Okay.
come to the committee meeting as well.
Okay, all right. Yes, all right. And then, do we need to put on the tree ordinance for whatever the heck Jay was?
No, you
Unicode?
just have to get ordinances to Municode to update the online.
Okay,
And why, is there a problem doing that, or why is it taking so long?
With some change in staff, some things were supposed to be done by previous staff that weren't done, and we're still finding things out. And there's a number of ordinances for a couple of years that were not submitted to Municode. So we will get those submitted.
So our next meeting, can we get an update on the website? We approved that in our first meeting in November.
They're working on it. They've given us a draft of the original, so we're expecting it to be live by the end of.
okay.
Tammy's been working more closely with them.
I thought it was like 60 days, and we approved it in November meeting.
They've been working. They took all the information. They have a draft new one. We have given notice to the old company that we will be leaving, so it is very close to going live.
Old one's bad. What about telecommunication ability for people telecommuting in and not having to pay travel time and people are absent? Thought we were going to get something going on that as well. We have that at next meeting,
What was that? I'm sorry. I was just trying.
or will telecommunication ability so that vendors and people can come in and instead of
Yeah.
paying their driving time. I think the guy, one of the guys said he could pay his salary easily for what the cost of that would be. It'd be big cost savings for us. And we've talked about that a couple times, but nothing's really happening.
Okay. Anything else? You good with that, Lisa?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, nothing else. Upcoming meetings, Economic Development Committee to be determined. March 11th is Plan Commission.
When are we going to get that? I'm waiting.
I know, and that's one Tammy will staff. I know she has sent emails out to members, has not gotten good responses on meetings. I can have her
2-3 months ago.
resend it again. She sent it a couple times. I know,
Who's the chair?
I am.
Bill.
I've been trying to get a meeting scheduled,
Yeah.
but they were too busy to schedule it, and then they were going to do a survey, and
Yeah, what day of the week, but what I would do is find out what day of the week we used to meet, because that worked for,
And then we changed it while we were doing the comprehensive plan so that they could meet before the Plan Commission. But
oh, no, I thought we met on Mondays as well.
we didn't, a different Monday. Did we meet?
Correct. We
Like
met-
the first
we
Monday
met-
or
yeah.
something, and then switched it to the second. I'd have to go back and
Yeah,
look.
I think, or the third, it might have even been the
But
third Monday.
I never
been the
listened
third
to
Monday
staff
ones we
of
were
that,
meeting.
so I
Yes.
don't know for sure.
So I would just pick a date and see who can be there.
They were, yeah.
This is,
All right. March 11th is the Plan Commission. March 12th, Joint Law Enforcement Committee, and the 12th is the Village Board meeting. March 13th, Library Board. The 19th is Water and Sewer, and the 26th will be the Village Board. And that's it. Police and Fire to be determined. It's just Police and Fire to be determined. All right. And so that brings us to item 13, second page of the revised agenda.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
All right.
Second.
Since the tornado in February, that I got notice that Dane County might be having tornado drills monthly, year-round. I'll keep you informed with that. So if you start hearing the sirens go off, that's what they're going to do. But I think they're going to talk about that at the next Dane County Chiefs meeting.
the tornado drills.
Just because of the February tornado.
And kind of tied to that, later this week, we do have a meeting, Todd, myself, one of our deputies, a representative representative from the fire department and EMS with the Red Cross to introduce, here's what's available in case something like that were to happen here. So we have that coming up this week.
That does remind me of that.
Is that officially adjourned?
No, not yet. I'm just following up on what Jill was saying. I did get a call, and I forgot all about to mention this, but it was from Dane County Emergency Services Management, and they called me on, I think that night. The guy called me, and I was already retired for the evening. Just wanted to know if we had any concerns out here. And the only thing I thought we had was a tree that came down. It wasn't part of Trex, it was another one that they had to clean up the next day. So, yeah. All right, we got a motion and a second.
Did you charge for the call?
No, I did not. I just let it go. You know?
Who's the second? Who's the second? Who's the second? Oh, okay.
Okay. In favor?